After 3 heartbreaking years, I discovered his betrayal and turned pain into an inspiring triumph. Claire stood behind the counter of the Cedar Falls diner, wiping down the surface as the sweet scent of pancakes wafted through the air. The sun blazed through the front window, illuminating her determined expression. For 3 years, her heart had intertwined with Mark's, painting a future filled with laughter and love for her son, Ethan. Yet, as she poured syrup onto a stack of steaming hotcakes, a storm brewed in her gut, signaling that something wasn't right. A sense of dread washed over her. She had given him everything: trust, love, and her dreams. But her heart twisted painfully when she noticed the odd discrepancies in the diner's finances. Blood ran cold in her veins as she began to uncover the truth. Slots filled with hope turned to knives as thoughts of betrayal rattled her. Mark, the charming businessman who had promised stability, had been siphoning funds, leaving her dreams in tatters. With each revelation, her breath became shallow, and Ethan's laughter echoed in her mind like a ghost haunting the walls. Claire pressed her palm against the cool bakery case, the faint aroma of pastries stirring memories of joy of days spent watching Ethan relish every bite, every delight. Despite the anguish tightening her chest, fierce determination lit her spirit. She would not let this be the end. She felt like a phoenix rising from ashes, and the flames of resolve ignited within her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She took a deep breath, channeling her pain into action, vowing not just to reclaim her diner, but to reshape the landscape of Cedar Falls. The bonds of this tight-knit community rushed forward, offering unyielding support. Neighbors rallied around her as whispers of her plight sparked a fire of collective resilience across the town. Claire transformed into a beacon of hope, and her plight became their fight. With tension crackling in the air, she prepared for the confrontation with Mark. Would she find the strength to face him, to reclaim not just her dreams, but her dignity? As Claire stood tall, adrenaline coursed through her veins. The townsfolk watched expectantly. Their faith in her surged like sea waves against the cliffs, and an unspoken promise nestled in their hearts. They would stand together. As her phone buzzed with a message from Mark, a chill ran down her spine. Dark secrets unfolded, entwining their fates even tighter. Was he merely a man lost to ambition, or was there something deeper camouflaged under his charming facade? The air was thick with anticipation, their futures trembling in uncertainty, the fabric of her life hanging by a thread. Claire's heart raced as she stared at her phone. The screen illuminated with Mark's name, a name she had loved and trusted. But now, that name carried the weight of betrayal. She reluctantly opened the message, her breath hitching. It read, "Can we talk? I need to explain. Please." For a moment, she felt torn. Part of her wanted to scream. Another part, the one anchored in the memories of their shared laughter, yearned for resolution. But she couldn't ignore the mounting evidence of deceit. Mark's warm smile no longer brought comfort, it twisted her stomach into knots. "Mom, what's wrong?" Ethan's innocent voice pulled her from the haze of uncertainty. She turned, forcing a smile as she squatted to meet his gaze. His big, brown eyes looked up at her with unconditional trust, innocence shining through. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some grown-up stuff," she said, trying to mask the turmoil inside her. Ethan nodded, clearly not convinced but accepting her reply, ready to return to his coloring. Claire's mind drifted back to the message. Did she really want to meet Mark? Something about the tone of his words sent alarm bells ringing. Yet the pulsing hope that flickered in her chest whispered that this could be her chance for closure or at least some semblance of understanding. She set her jaw, making a silent promise to herself. If she went through with this meeting, she would demand the truth. Not just for her, but for Ethan. If Mark had been unfaithful in business, what else had he concealed? As the afternoon sun spilled golden light into the diner, her resolve solidified. With the help of her community, she had begun putting plans into action. New menus, creative events, and partnerships with local farmers were underway. Each idea sparkled like a gem against the backdrop of her pain. But that shadow still loomed. There was still the matter of the betrayal to address. When the clock struck 5, Claire closed up early. She glanced around the diner one last time, soaking in the comfort of familiar surroundings. The day had held so many memories, and soon it would be filled with new ones she could shape with her own hands. As she drove to meet Mark, knots formed in her stomach. What if he had an explanation that would change everything? Or worse, what if he didn't? Every scenario twisted in her head, dark and light clashing like thunderclouds on a stormy horizon. Claire parked in the lot of the old cafe where they used to share meals. She stepped out of the car, nerves buzzing like the neon signs flickering above. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the very moment this was hers to dictate. As she walked inside, she was struck by the nostalgia of it all. The faded wooden floors and the cozy booths seemed to cradle memories of laughter and love. But now, she was here to confront the man who had shattered her world. Across the room, Mark stood, hands shoved into his pockets, his handsome face drawn tight. He looked almost vulnerable, but Claire wasn't here to coddle him. She had a son to protect and a business to reclaim. "Claire," he began, his voice wavering slightly. But before he could say more, she cut him off, words pouring out like a dam had burst. "No, I don't want any excuses. You need to tell me everything. Now." In that moment, there was no going back. Each word felt like it could either shatter her or set her free. The heavy silence filled with anticipation tautened like a bowstring. Would she finally get the answers she needed? Or discover a truth she wasn't prepared to face? This confrontation marked a turning point, one that could either begin her healing or plunge her deeper into despair. And as Claire stood there, strength clashing with fear, she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to shift. But would it be in her favor? Mark's gaze flickered, darting between the table and Claire's fierce eyes. The tension was thick enough to slice with a knife. He cleared his throat, attempting to gather his thoughts, but Claire had little patience left for his hesitations. The cafe buzzed softly around them, but it felt as though the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. "Claire, I never meant for things to get so complicated," he finally said, his voice low, laced with regret. "I thought what?" She interrupted, her heart pounding against her ribcage. "Thought you could string me along and hope I wouldn't notice? Thought I'd just sit here waiting for your phone call while you lived a double life?" A flash of hurt crossed Mark's features. "No, it was never like that." "Then tell me, Mark. What was it like?" Her voice rose, cracking under the weight of her emotion. "What could possibly justify what you did?" He shifted slightly, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Talk to me. I can explain." "I was going through things." He paused, his eyes searching her face for any glimmer of understanding. "I didn't know how to handle it. I lost my way and sought comfort. The word tasted bitter on her tongue. "You think cheating is comfort? Because all it brings is pain. Pain for you, pain for me, and especially pain for Ethan." At the mention of their son, Mark's expression shifted. Guilt seeped into his eyes, and for a moment, Claire could see that the mask he wore was beginning to crack. "I never wanted to hurt you or Ethan," he whispered, voice trembling. "Then why do it?" She pressed, feeling the heat rise in her chest. This time she wouldn't let him sidestep the truth. "You could have talked to me. You could have asked for help. Instead, you chose betrayal." Silence stretched between them, heavy and oppressive. Mark looked like he was crumbling beneath the weight of Claire's words. Suddenly, he leaned forward, his expression more earnest than before. "I'm so sorry. I thought things would get better. I thought I could fix everything without dragging you into my mess. But I see now that it was selfish. You deserve to know the truth, Claire." "Then tell me the truth." Her voice softened, edging away from anger as a flicker of curiosity peeked within. Mark hesitated, swallowing hard. "I got involved with a woman at work and it went too far. I was confused, and I thought I could keep it separated from our life. But it all unraveled, and I knew it was wrong. Her breath hitched. This was the raw honesty she had searched for, but it stung like salt on an open wound. Even as she ached for clarity, his admission only deepened the hurt. And now? Claire demanded, her walls trembling under the weight of his confession. What do you want now? To pick up where we left off? No, he rushed to say, his eyes wide. I just want you to know how truly sorry I am and that I want to make amends. Amends? The word hung in the air like an unsaid promise. Did she even want to entertain the idea? Claire felt as though she were on shifting sand, uncertain of what her own heart was standing on. Part of her cried out for the familiar, but the powerful emotions swirling inside her pushed her toward freeing herself from this pain. Could she forgive? Should she even consider it? Mark opened his mouth again. Was he going to say he loved her still? The very thought almost made her knees buckle, yet, before either of them could speak, a sudden crash from the back of the cafe jolted their attention. Claire turned to see a server spill a tray of drinks, a cascade of glass and ice scattering across the floor. The ruckus instantly shifted the focus of the room, and an uncomfortable laughter rippled through the patrons. Maybe that's a sign, Claire said, trying to break the tension with a forced smile. The glimmer of humor felt hollow, but she needed to steer this back to safer ground, away from the raw ache of what Mark had disclosed. Mark chuckled lightly, yet the sound was tinged with remorse. I guess life has a way of reminding us to stay grounded. Shifting uneasily, Claire could feel the walls closing in again. She wanted answers, but with the looming reality of this encounter haunting her, did she truly have the strength for what unfolded next? As she glanced back at Mark, the question hung heavy in her heart. Was she ready to forgive him, or was this merely the beginning of an even tougher battle? And in that moment, surrounded by shattered glass and memories, Claire realized she had to choose not just for herself, but for Ethan. The stakes had never been higher, and the next choice she made would echo through their lives forever. The cafe hummed with chatter and clinking cups, a world away from the storm that swirled between Claire and Mark. The laughter of nearby tables felt invasive, a mockery of the turmoil that consumed her. Claire's heart raced as she focused on Mark's strained face, searching for any hint of the man she once knew. What do I mean to you, Mark? She finally breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Did I ever really mean anything to you at all? He opened his mouth, then closed it, caught in the snare of her question. She could see the wheels turning, the apology battling with the truth. You mean everything to me, Claire. You always have, he said, the urgency in his voice unmistakable. This mistake, it doesn't erase that. Doesn't erase? The bitterness hurt her mouth as she spoke. It feels like it did. I feel erased, like a footnote in a story you decided to write without me. I never meant to push you away. I just got lost. It was a moment of weakness, and I let it take control. His eyes glistened, wavering between regret and desperation. I was selfish, but I want you to know that even then, I loved you. Claire swallowed hard, trying to digest his words. The memories swirled around her, bitter and sweet. Their son's laughter, the comfort of shared dreams, the warmth of a loving embrace. How could she reconcile all of that with this betrayal? In the quiet space that followed, she noticed the server coming back to clean the mess. The woman kept glancing over, an awkward sympathy etched on her face. Claire could feel the eyes of the cafe on her, the weight of their scrutiny adding to her suffocating confusion. Taking a deep breath, she asked, "What do you want from me now, Mark? You want to fix this, like it's a broken chair that can just be glued back together?" Mark leaned back, his eyes burning with sincerity. "I want to be honest. I want to show you, in every way I can, that I can be better. I'll do whatever it takes to regain your trust. I want to be there for you and Ethan. I'm willing to fight for our family." A rush of emotions surged within her. Could she even consider what he was offering? Trust was so fragile, and hers felt shattered. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw the flicker of desperation mixed with genuine pain, and a small voice inside her whispered, "What if he really means it?" Mark's shoulders sagged, hope on the edge of vanishing. I know words are just words, Claire. But I swear, if you give me that chance, I won't take it for granted again. I can't change the past, but I can work to rebuild. She took another breath, glancing out the window. The day was sunny, people moving along in blissful ignorance of her storm. Rebuilding, it's not just my heart you need to work on. It's Ethan's life too. He has to see you as someone who deserves to be in his life. Can you do that? Yes, he said firmly. I will do whatever it takes to show both of you that I can be that man. Her heart ached. There was no easy choice, no clear path. Could she really risk opening her heart again? Right now, standing there in the middle of the cafe, she felt the weight of a decision that could reshape their lives. As the noise faded from her perception, her heart thundered in her ears. I don't know if I can forgive yet. But if you're willing to try, hope mingled with caution as she hesitated, unsure of her next step. Could a fresh start emerge from this wreckage? Mark's hands tightened around his coffee cup, eyes locked on hers, full of unspoken promises, and beyond their conversation, an old friend appeared at the cafe door, his jovial presence arriving like a wild card, potentially adding more disruption to a moment already precarious. Would this unexpected arrival steer her path toward clarity or more chaos? Claire's gaze flickered toward the entrance as a gust of warmth swirled into the cafe, trailing a familiar figure behind it. Jesse. Her first instinct was to retreat, to put up walls against his unwelcome intrusion. But instead, she felt an odd sense of relief, a soft hand on her shoulder in this tempest. Jesse's smile was bright, yet he froze when he realized his cheer was poorly timed. The heaviness between Claire and Mark draped over the cafe like an ill-fitting coat. He approached cautiously, scanning faces. Hey, Claire. Didn't he expect to find you here? He exclaimed, but then his voice trailed off as he caught sight of Mark. Jesse, she managed, her voice light but unsteady. This is complicated. Mark slid slightly away from the table, as though even the air between them had grown thick with anxiety. Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. How are you? Jesse glanced between them, his bright demeanor dimming at the tension. Everything okay? Silence fell, heavy and piercing. Claire felt trapped in the spotlight, the warmth of the cafe a cruel contrast to the chill creeping into her chest. She needed a breath, a lifeline, something to keep her anchored. Jesse had always been her friend, even during the rocky patches of their lives. Jesse, we were just talking, she said finally, her voice trembling. Mark shifted in his seat, but Jesse didn't seem to notice. About? Jesse probed, his expression shifting from friendly to concerned. About our marriage, Claire whispered, her heart racing. Oh. The word hung in the air. She couldn't read Jesse's expression. Was he shocked? Sympathetic? Angry? 1,000 thoughts contorted in her mind, each stabbing at her resolve. I didn't know you were, Jesse began, then faltered. What happened? A mistake, Mark asserted, his tone firm. Something I regret deeply. Claire's stomach churned. They were laying everything bare, but this wasn't a stage play. It was reality, the kind of raw, painful honesty that often left remnants of shattered dreams. That doesn't sound like just a mistake, Jesse said, anger sparking in his bright eyes. Claire, you deserve more than that. Thanks, but Claire's voice trailed off. We're trying to work things out. It's not simple. Mark's expression shifted, a mixture of gratitude and frustration as he spoke again. I'm committed to earning her trust back. I'll fight for our family. I want to fix this. Jesse turned sharply to Mark, studying him with skepticism. Do you really think you can? After everything? Claire felt caught between them, trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. She watched Mark square his shoulders, facing Jesse with determination. I know it won't be easy, but I believe it's worth it. Claire is worth it. Ethan is worth it. A deep silence descended, not uncomfortable but more like an impending storm. Claire felt her heart beat faster. Every moment that passed felt loaded with implications. Was this really the new beginning she hoped for, Or the start of an even bigger battle? Jessie finally exhaled, a heavy breath filled with decades of friendship and care. If you're serious, you better show her every day. Words mean nothing without actions. The weight of Jessie's stance sent shivers through Claire. She had always appreciated his straightforwardness, but now it felt like pressure weighing down on her fragile hope. Did she really want to resurrect something that had burned so fiercely, resulting in only ashes? As Jessie took a seat at the table, the conversation shifted. And Claire could feel the air crackle with tension, uncertainty, and a flicker of hope. She was just beginning to sift through this storm, and yet there it was, another unpredictable turn. Could she navigate the rough waters of forgiveness while still holding on to the love she once had for Mark? Through this maze of emotions, she felt the embodiment of her decisions looming just out of reach, hidden away in what choices she made moving forward. And in that moment, a phone buzzed in Mark's pocket, startling her from her thoughts. As he fished it out, an unreadable expression crossed his face, sending a ripple of anxiety through her chest. What could it be? Another twist she didn't see coming? Her heart sank, ready to plunge back into chaos. The challenges ahead felt like an ever-blooming uncertainty, one she wasn't sure she could face. But one thing remained clear: this was only the beginning. Mark's thumb hovered over the screen, the glow illuminating his face, casting shadows that danced with uncertainty. Claire's breath quickened as she leaned in, desperation mixing with dread. What could be so important now, in the midst of this fragile moment? Who is it? Claire asked, her voice strained and barely holding its ground. Mark looked at her, a pinched expression settling on his features. It's my sister. She's in the hospital. The word struck Claire like a bolt of lightning. Suddenly, the cafe faded around them, the chatter muffled, the aroma of coffee swirling into the background. She could see the raw panic in his eyes, which, for a fleeting second, replaced the guilt and confusion that had hung between them. Oh, God, Claire managed, her heart shifting into a different rhythm. Without thinking, she reached across the table, squeezing his hand. She didn't want to feel anything more than she already did, but instinct kicked and compassion overwhelmed her lingering resentment. Jessie, caught off guard by the shift in mood, looked between them with a blend of curiosity and concern. Is everything all right? Mark cleared his throat, returning to the moment, though he looked far away. I don't know yet, I have to go. Do you want me to come with you? Claire offered, nearly surprising herself. No, this is family business. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the tiled floor, a sound that punctuated the gravity of the situation. Mark, Jessie jumped in, you need to keep her posted. For a moment, Claire saw the tension thaw, their abrupt confrontation overshadowed by a family crisis. Mark nodded, but his eyes were distant, emotions lost in the chaos of uncertainty. I'll call you as soon as I know more, Mark said, his voice holding a hint of a tremor. As he walked away, Claire felt the ache of anticipation settle deep in her stomach. She watched him dart through the entrance, and for a moment, she felt hollow. Whatever threads they began to weave earlier, those tentative threads of rebuilding, felt frayed at the seams. Jessie turned to her, concern etched on his face. You okay? Yeah, Claire forced a smile that didn't touch her eyes. Just, let us give him some space. The weight of silence returned, heavier than before. Would his sister be okay? Would Mark ever come back with clarity, or would the issues between them remain unresolved like a fog that refused to lift? I don't like this for you, Jessie said quietly, sipping his coffee, his brow furrowing. You deserve honesty. You deserve more than to be left in doubt. I know. Claire's heart felt like it was rehearsing an old melody, one of heartache and mistrust, but maybe, just maybe, they could still discover a new tune if only they tried. The cafe noise buzzed around them, their energies blending with the conversations and laughter, but Claire remained lost in her head. Every ounce of uncertainty felt magnified in the pouring light. Relationships were complex, that much she understood. Forgiveness was an act of bravery, and she wondered if she was brave enough to embrace it. Without warning, Jessie leaned forward, catching her gaze intensely. What if you didn't wait for him to figure things out? What if you took control of what you want? His question lingered, the implications wrapping around her like a warm shawl. What would that look like? Did it mean breaking out of her comfort zone? Or confronting the raw truth of her feelings? Claire, Jessie's voice softened, you have every right to choose what's best for you. The weight started to shift, the thought of taking charge sparking a flame inside her. Maybe she could meet Mark halfway, but she also needed to safeguard her own heart. As the door swung open again, she turned, her heart racing, a glimmer of hope that Mark's return would change everything. But when he walked back in with his head low, her heart dropped. The look on his face was much more than worry, it was laden with a different kind of weight. Something had changed, but what? That question loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Claire could feel the tension creeping back in, ready to either break her or propel her into the unknown. What would she say when he finally sat down? Would she have the courage to ask what she needed to ask? As Mark approached the table, she steeled herself. Everything was about to shift once more. Mark slipped back into the chair across from Claire, the air around them thick with unspoken words. The light from the cafe was bright, but whatever shimmer of hope had fueled her heart moments ago felt extinguished. His eyes, usually so warm, now seemed dimmed, cloaked in fear and uncertainty. Claire, he began, his voice lacking its usual confidence. It trembled slightly, as if he were standing on shaky ground. It's bad. I really don't know what's going to happen. The pit in her stomach deepened, but her instinct was to reach out again. She took his hand, just like before. What did the doctor say? He inhaled deeply, the air feeling heavy in his lungs. They're running tests, but they think it might be serious. The thought of suffering, the thought of losing someone clenched her heart. What do you mean serious? Mark looked away, as if searching for the words in the tiled floor. It could be anything. He rubbed his temples, frustration mingling with pain. It was the first time she saw him vulnerable in such a raw, unguarded way. I'm so sorry. Claire felt the warmth of compassion sweep through her, but beneath that warmth lay the cold dread of their own unresolved issues. Is there anything I can do? He locked eyes with her, his emotions swirling like a tempest. Just be here. I don't want to feel alone in this. Jesse, sitting a few feet away, cleared his throat, sensing the intensity building around their table. If you need space, Claire, I can know, Mark interrupted sharply, his voice firm. Please stay, Jesse. I can't. The emotional wall he'd built was crumbling around them, and in that moment, all Claire could do was hold on. Claire squeezed Mark's hand tighter. You're not alone, she reassured him, feeling a fierce protectiveness bloom inside. You have people who care about you. His expression softened. The connection they had once nurtured, buried beneath time and resentment, flickered to life like a candle in the dark. As they sat in the cafe, the sounds of laughter and chatter faded. Instead, all she could hear was the rhythm of their breath, a steady tempo of vulnerability and strength entwined. But then, Claire wrestled with the encroaching doubts in her mind. Were they really ready to face their issues? Was this dark moment bringing them together, or merely postponing the inevitable confrontation with their own fears? Mark, when things settle, when you're ready, we need to talk about us. There it was, the ache spilling out. A plea wrapped in trepidation. He looked at her, his expression shifting from sadness to something more complex. Regret, maybe? I don't know if I can right now, he admitted, a tremor in his voice. My family needs me. She felt the knot in her chest tighten again. Was she asking for too much, too soon? Okay, Claire said softly. But don't forget, you're part of my family too. Jesse shifted on his seat, confusion crossing his face. Claire had said so much with those words, evoking a fragile hope tangled with trepidation. Thanks, Mark murmured, and for the first time, the hint of a smile broke through the heavy atmosphere. It was fleeting, but it filled Claire with warmth, a tender reminder of their connection amidst the chaos, but the clock was ticking. Another moment of silence hung heavily in the air as Claire focused on Mark, his gaze lost in thought, making her wonder if this glimmer of closeness would slip away just as quickly. Mark? She pressed gently. What if it's not just about your sister? He blinked, the moment stretching between them. What do you mean? Sometimes tragedy shifts our perspectives. Maybe it gives us a chance to start over, to sort through what really matters. The expression on his face was unreadable. Did she dare put that out into the universe, or would she risk losing him completely in this fragile state? As they faced one another, Claire knew they were at a crossroads. The moment of truth was creeping closer, and the tension felt electric, a current that could either pull them together or send them spiraling apart, but underneath it all, a thread of hope remained. What if? This was the beginning of their journey, not just an end, and as Mark opened his mouth to respond, a new wave of emotions washed over both of them, ready to change everything. Mark's eyes darted, searching for some comforting words, but the silence between them grew heavier. Claire's heart raced as she waited, the air thick with unvoiced thoughts. Claire, he started, but the words trailed off, swallowed by uncertainty. She felt her grip on his hand tighten, wanting to anchor him, wanting him to see that they could face anything together. What if we talked about the past first? Claire suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Everything we've let fester, it might be the first step in figuring out what's next. Mark's jaw clenched slightly, but her gaze held him firmly. With each breath, Claire reminded herself that honesty was their only path forward. There was too much unsaid, too many feelings buried alive that he hesitated, his face a portrait of conflict. The pain of his sister weighed heavily, but maybe the past carried its burdens too. I'm scared, Claire. Scared of everything. His voice broke, revealing the boy hidden behind the man. I know, she said softly, her own fear tangled with his. But holding on to that fear, it pushes us away. We can't forget what has happened, but we can acknowledge it. Mark's eyes flickered with recognition, and for a fleeting moment, Claire saw a flicker of hope spark within him. What if this is the moment we decide to be honest? He asked, a desperate edge creeping into his voice. Then we start here, she said, gesturing between them. We rebuild from the truth. His gaze fell, the shadows of their shared history casting a pall. You feel hurt about how things ended. I get that, he whispered. But it's so complicated. What's complicated is pretending everything is fine. Claire felt frustration bubble beneath the surface. We've avoided this long enough. He nodded slowly, his fingers tracing her palm gently, igniting a warmth that eased her tension. When I look back, I see the anger I projected, the mistakes I made. I never wanted to push you away. Tears threatened to spill as Claire fought to keep her emotions in check. And I never wanted to go either, Mark. It felt like I was losing you. We both lost our way. Mark's eyes searched hers, the vulnerability laid bare between them. Claire felt a longing to bridge the space that had developed, to heal old wounds. Maybe I should have fought harder, he said. For you, for us. Maybe we both should have, she whispered, a lump forming in her throat. But we can't change the past. We have to decide if we can be present for each other now. The weight of reality was palpable in the cafe, the laughter around them dimmed to a faint background hum. Just then, Jesse shifting his attention as if he sensed the intimate exchange. Hey, if things get too heavy, we can always grab some fresh air, he offered lightly, trying to bring levity into the moment. Thanks, Jesse, Claire said, grateful for his attempt to lighten the tension. But it was evident to her that the gravity of the conversation was transforming. Mark needed to deal with the pain that loomed large, and she, too, needed to confront the echoes of her own heartache. Mark's expression hardened, as if he was fighting the urge to retreat. I can't promise anything about the future, Claire, just take it one step at a time, she urged, feeling a surge of determination. Let us find our way back, together. For a moment, they shared a tentative smile, a flicker of the bond still present beneath the hurt and confusion. But as quickly as it came, doubt shadowed her heart again. And what if we can't find it? She asked, vulnerability creeping into her tone. Mark swallowed, looking at her with an intensity that went beyond words. Then we'll face that too. And just when Claire thought the fog was beginning to clear, a message buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with startling urgency. Mark's phone. The worrisome look that spread across his face sent a chill down her spine. "It's from my sister's doctor." The world faded away, leaving only the heartbeat of anticipation and anxiety. What news lay on the other side of that screen? "Mark," she breathed, every fiber of her being bracing for the unknown. What if it changes everything again? As he reached for the phone, Claire knew they were on the edge once more, the path ahead, as unpredictable as the tests yet to unfold. Mark's heart raced as he stared at the notification. The doctor's name illuminated the screen, but darkness crept into his mind. He felt Claire's anxious eyes on him, and briefly, he closed his own, as if blocking out the world could pause the inevitable. "Are you okay?" Claire asked, her voice filled with concern. The warmth of her hand was still clasped in his, grounding him in this raw moment. I don't know," he whispered, his voice trembling. He finally opened his eyes again, glancing at the screen but unable to process the words scrolling in front of him. "Read it," she urged softly, squeezing his hand tighter. The urgency in her tone mingled with her fear, and he knew they were both fracturing with uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, Mark swiped the screen. The message glared back at him, each word a stone sinking deeper into his chest. "There's been a change in her condition," he read, his voice thickening. "Her treatment needs to be adjusted." Claire's grip tightened around him once more, her eyes pooling with emotions. "What does that mean?" she asked, fear wrapping around her words. "It means," his throat felt tight, "it means they may not be doing enough. There could be complications." The space between them turned heavy, a weight of desperation pressing against their shoulders. For a moment, they shared a look, one that mingled terror with an urge to protect each other from the crushing reality. "What's the next step?" Claire asked, her voice steadying as she fought through her own fear. Mark swallowed hard, forcing his mind to work. "I guess I need to call them and understand what is happening. I need to know what it all means." "Okay," Claire replied, her resolve serving to strengthen him. "I'll be right here." He nodded, but as he reached for his phone again, an overwhelming sense of isolation swept over him. The world outside the cafe buzzed with life, but here, they were two unmoored souls adrift in a storm of grief. "Mark, listen," Claire's voice broke through his thoughts. "You don't have to do this alone. You and your sister, you mean everything to me. Just like you do to her." He raised his eyes, catching the genuine honesty behind her gaze. Somewhere within him, something cracked open. "I'm terrified of losing her," he admitted, his voice hoarse. "And I'm scared of what this means for us." Claire leaned closer, her heartbeat matching the quick rhythm of his. "We're all scared. But look at us, we're still here. This can't tear us apart if we don't let it." Her words lit a small fire in Mark's heart, a flicker of hope against the pain that threatened to consume him. "But what if I don't know how to be strong enough? For her or for us?" A small smile danced on Claire's lips, though it carried a weight of empathy. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. Strength isn't about being invincible. It's about being vulnerable, recognizing when we need help." Mark wanted to argue, to say he didn't want to lean, but her eyes melted away the hesitation. This was not just about him. It was about them, about Claire and the love that had risen through their adversities. That he took a breath, clinging to that warmth in her gaze. But just as he felt a sense of clarity forming, a noise sliced through the cafe, a sudden, loud crash from outside. Startled, they both turned toward the window where a car had spun out of control, tires screeching, as shockwaves of panic fluttered across the crowded sidewalk. "Mark!" Claire shouted as the chaos erupted, pulling him back to the moment, back to reality. Their connection lost, their shared resolve obliterated in an instant. What just happened? Mark felt a surge of fear again. Was this yet another layer of trouble they had to navigate? As the sirens wailed in the distance and people rushed past, he looked at Claire, their lives splintering once more. What if this really is a sign? He murmured, unease creeping into his voice. "Maybe it is," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the storm brewing in his heart. "But we can choose how we respond to it." The weight of their future loomed like a shadow above them, heavy. with unspoken fears and the risk of upheaval. But as Mark held Claire's gaze, a question lingered at the edge of his thoughts. Could they find their way through this uncertainty together, or was this the point where everything unraveled? The answer hung in the air, delicate and unresolved, just begging for them to take the next step. In the days that followed, everything felt surreal. The car accident became a catalyst, not just for Claire and Mark, but for the whole community. While Mark spent hours at the hospital, worried about his sister, Claire was propelled into action. The diner buzzed with activity as her neighbors united to support her. They brought food, organized fundraisers, and filled the air with laughter even amidst worry. Claire became a conduit for the love and support flooding into her and Mark's lives. Mark kept Claire informed, texting and calling whenever time allowed. "She's responsive," he would say, relief washing through his voice each time. They became a team, tackling challenges together while learning to communicate with honesty and vulnerability. Yet, the raw hurt still lingered beneath the surface like an unhealed wound point one evening. As Claire cleaned up the diner after a bustling day, she looked around at the familiar space. It felt different now, a home grounded in hope rather than betrayal. Her son, Ethan, had been a bright light through all of this, his laughter reminding Claire of the reasons to embrace the future. As if on cue, Mark walked in. The lines on his face showed the stress he carried, but his spirit seemed lighter today. "Hey," he called, his voice warm yet cautious. "Hey there, Mr. Hospital Hero," Claire teased, a radiant smile breaking through her exhaustion. "What's the news?" "She's doing better. They've adjusted her medication, and for now, she's stable," he said, the tension in his shoulders slowly unwinding. Together, they settled at a booth, the weight of the world lifting for just a moment. "Good. That's really great news," Claire replied, feeling a spark of hope echo through her heart. They talked, sharing stories and fears, slowly peeling away the layers of their past. Claire offered him a glimpse into her struggles running the diner, and Mark opened up about the tangled feelings of guilt he experienced due to his sister's health and his own mistakes. Instead of defensiveness, there was understanding. "I've been thinking a lot about us," Claire finally said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "When this is all over, we need to talk about what happened." "We can't ignore it, I know," Mark interjected. The sincerity in his eyes mirrored her own thoughts. "I want to. I'm ready." And just like that, the shift in their relationship began, one built not on unresolved issues, but on newfound honesty and a willingness to confront their past together. Days turned into a week, and with each passing moment, Claire felt their connection deepen. They navigated the hospital visits and the diner's buzzing environment hand in hand, stealing quiet moments amidst the chaos. The laughter returned, too, especially from Ethan, who reveled in the joy of seeing both his parents together. One rainy afternoon, as they stood watching Ethan splash in puddles outside, Claire turned to Mark. "It's almost like the storm was meant to bring us together," she mused. "Yeah," he said, glancing at her, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Just like this rain washes everything clean. Maybe it's time we let go of the past and embrace what's next," Claire suggested, her heart racing with the sincerity of her promise. Mark nodded, his gaze resolute. "Then let us start fresh. With honesty. With love. For Ethan, for us." Claire felt a wave of acceptance wash over her, a soothing balm over the scars from before. Together, they began to build something new, a foundation anchored in trust and resilience, carved from their own struggles. Time went on, and Mark's sister made a remarkable recovery, becoming a source of inspiration for both of them. They often laughed about how something as chaotic as a car accident helped bridge their lives back together, reminding them both of the value of each moment. With every passing day, Claire felt herself rising from the ashes of pain and betrayal, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As spring finally blossomed over Cedar Falls, she felt lighter. They sat together on the diner's patio, the sun warming their hearts. Hand in hand. They gazed at Ethan playing nearby, a symbol of hope who connected them in ways words never could, and in that small, simple moment, Claire couldn't help but reflect on how resilience and love transformed their wounds into a beautiful tapestry, a reminder that through the storm, true strength emerged. Now was the time to step boldly into their new life. Claire smiled, knowing their journey was just getting started. This is the end of the chapter, but the story continues. If you loved this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on more exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, your support helps so much. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. What touched you most? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show them the power of resilience and love.